She kissed a stranger to get away, never knowing he ruled the empire. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let us return to our main character. The music inside the ballroom was soft, expensive, and relentless, the kind that pretended everything was elegant while trapping you in place. Crystal lights glimmered above polished marble floors. Men in tailored suits laughed too loudly. Women in silk dresses smiled without warmth. And right there, near the edge of the crowd, she realized she had waited too long. Her name was Lena. She felt it before she saw it, that tightening in her chest, the sense that someone was closing in. She turned, just slightly, and met the eyes she had been trying to avoid all night. The man who had cornered her earlier. The man who had smiled, as if he already owned her answer. There was no exit behind her, only a wall of bodies and champagne flutes. Her phone buzzed in her clutch, a message she did not have time to read. Her breath shortened. She had promised herself she would not panic. She had promised herself she would survive this night quietly. But promises are fragile when fear sharpens them. He took a step closer. Lena did the only thing her instincts allowed. She looked around, spotted a man standing alone near the bar, and walked straight toward him. He was tall, calm, and completely detached from the chaos around him. Dark suit, no drink in his hand. His posture said control without effort. He turned just as she reached him, surprise flickering across his face. "I am sorry," she whispered. Then she grabbed the front of his jacket and kissed him. It was not gentle, it was not practiced. It was desperate and sudden and real enough to stop the room. The world seemed to freeze. She felt him stiffen for half a second. Then, instead of pulling away, he placed one steady hand at her waist and leaned in, deepening the illusion. His voice brushed her ear, low and composed. "Stay close," he said, "if you want this to work." The man who had been approaching them stopped short. Confusion crossed his face. He glanced around, noticed the attention, and retreated with a forced laugh, as if he had misread everything. Lena did not breathe again until the threat was gone. She pulled back, her face burning, her heart pounding so loudly she was sure he could hear it. "I did not mean to," she said quickly. "I just needed to get away. I understand if you are angry." The man studied her for a moment. His expression was unreadable, not offended, not amused, just curious. "Do you often kiss strangers to escape trouble?" he asked. "No," she said. "Only when the trouble does not take no for an answer." Something shifted in his eyes. Not desire, recognition. "Come with me," he said calmly, "at least until the night ends." They moved together through the crowd, and the room parted for him without question. She noticed it then, the subtle nods, the instant respect. People stepped aside as if by instinct. She told herself it meant nothing. They stopped near a balcony overlooking the city. The doors closed behind them, muffling the noise. Cool air rushed in, carrying the scent of rain and distant traffic. "My name is Adrian," he said, "and if you want protection tonight, pretending will not be enough." She swallowed. "What do you mean?" "I mean," he continued, "whoever you are running from will not stop unless he believes you are truly taken." She hesitated. "For how long?" "As long as it takes," Adrian replied, "but there will be rules." Rules. The word landed heavier than the kiss had. She nodded slowly, not knowing that this moment, born from fear and impulse, had just bound her to a man who did not merely belong to this world of power. He ruled it. They stayed on the balcony longer than Lena expected, not because she wanted to, but because leaving meant stepping back into a room where her safety depended on an illusion she had already started. The city stretched below them, miles of light and movement, distant sirens weaving through the night like reminders that the world did not slow down for fear. Adrian rested one hand on the railing, relaxed, as if nothing unusual had happened moments earlier. "You can let go now," he said quietly. Lena realized she was still gripping his jacket, her fingers tight, knuckles pale. She released him at once, stepping back. "I did not plan any of that," she said. "I was not trying to cause trouble." "I know," Adrian replied. "Trouble usually announces itself louder." She studied him more carefully now. He did not look irritated. If anything, he looked thoughtful. That unsettled her more than anger would have. "I should leave," she said. "You should not," he answered, without raising his voice. "At least not alone." She frowned. "You do not even know me." "I know enough," Adrian said. "Someone felt entitled to corner you. You reacted because you had no support. That makes you careful, not reckless." Lena looked away, the words landing closer to the truth than she wanted. "I can take care of myself." "I am sure you can," he said. "Tonight is simply stacked against you." She exhaled slowly. "Then what do you suggest?" Adrian turned toward her fully now. The lights from inside cast sharp lines across his face, making him look older, more serious. "We continue what you started," he said. "Publicly." Her stomach tightened. "You mean pretend?" "Yes," he said, convincingly. "And afterward?" she asked. "That depends on how far this situation reaches," Adrian replied. "But if someone believes you are with me, they will stop." "With you," she repeated. "Why would that matter?" A faint smile crossed his face, brief and unreadable. "Because people usually stop asking questions when they think the answer is already owned." The balcony doors opened behind them. Laughter spilled out. A woman's voice called Adrian's name, warm and familiar. He did not turn. "Decide," he said softly. "You can walk back in alone, or you can take my arm and leave with me when the night ends." Lena's heart raced. Every sensible part of her told her to refuse, to thank him and disappear. But the memory of the man who had cornered her, the confidence in his eyes, the certainty that no one would intervene, pushed her forward. "How long?" she asked again. "For now," Adrian said. "We define the rest together." "And the rules?" Lena pressed. He nodded once. "There will be boundaries, no lies to each other, no expectations beyond what is necessary, and when you want out, you say so." She hesitated, then slipped her hand into the crook of his arm. His sleeve was warm, steady. "Just for tonight," she said. "For tonight," he agreed. They re-entered the ballroom together. The reaction was immediate. Conversation softened. Eyes followed them. The woman who had called Adrian earlier smiled in approval. Someone clinked a glass. Someone else whispered. Lena felt every gaze like a weight, but Adrian did not falter. He guided her through the crowd with quiet authority, stopping only when someone addressed him directly. "You were difficult to find," a man said, extending his hand. "We were waiting on your approval." Adrian shook his hand briefly. "I was occupied." The man's eyes flicked to Lena. Curiosity sharpened his smile. "I see." "This is Lena," Adrian said. "She is with me. Nothing more, nothing less." The man nodded at once. "Of course. Welcome." As they moved on, Lena leaned closer, her voice barely audible. "They believe you. They believe certainty," Adrian corrected. "Titles are secondary." She glanced around again, realizing how effortlessly the room adjusted around him. Doors opened, space cleared. No one questioned. For the first time that evening, she felt the tension ease from her shoulders. When the event finally wound down and the crowd thinned, Adrian led her toward a private exit. A car waited outside, sleek and black, engine humming softly. "You will let me take you home," he said. It was not a question. She hesitated, then nodded. "All right." As the car pulled away from the building, Lena stared out the window, the city lights blurring past. "What happens tomorrow?" she asked. Adrian looked forward, his reflection faint in the glass. "Tomorrow," he said, "we decide whether this remains a single night or becomes something far more complicated." Lena swallowed, unaware that by agreeing to stay beside him, she had already crossed into a world where nothing was simple, and nothing was ever truly pretend. The next morning arrived too quickly. Lena woke to silence that did not belong to her life. No traffic outside her window, no neighbor's television through thin walls, just soft light filtering through floor-to-ceiling glass and the distant hum of a city far below. She sat up slowly. The room was enormous, clean lines, neutral colors, a hotel suite or something far more permanent. Her dress from the night before was folded neatly on a chair, her shoes placed side by side as if someone had thought carefully about them. Memory rushed back in pieces. The kiss, the balcony, the car. Adrian sitting beside her, not touching, not asking questions, simply ensuring she arrived safely. She swung her legs over the bed, heart steady but alert. A door opened behind her. "You are awake," Adrian said. She turned. He stood near the entrance, dressed casually now, no jacket, sleeves rolled, coffee in hand. He looked less like a man from a ballroom, and more like someone who owned his mornings. "Where am I?" Lena asked. "My residence," he replied. "You fell asleep in the car. I did not think waking you would help." She nodded slowly. "Thank you for the couch." "You took the bedroom," he said. "I prefer not to start arrangements with discomfort." Arrangements. The word hung between them. Lena stood. "I should go." "You can," Adrian said evenly. "But before you do, there are things you should understand." She crossed her arms, defensive without meaning to be. "Such as?" "The man you were avoiding last night did not leave because he was embarrassed," Adrian said. "He left because he believed you were protected." "And that protection expires?" she asked. "It does not," Adrian replied, "unless you choose it to." She studied him, searching for manipulation, for expectation. She found neither. "You said rules," Lena said. "You said no lies." "Yes." "Then start telling the truth," she said. "Who are you?" Adrian took a moment before answering. Not hesitation, calculation. "My name is Adrian Cole," he said. "I am the Chief Executive Officer of Cole Global." The name landed with weight. She had heard it before. Everyone had. An empire that touched finance, real estate, technology, infrastructure. A name that appeared in headlines, never in interviews. "You rule everything," she said quietly. "No," Adrian corrected. "I manage it." Lena let out a short breath. So the kiss was not just convincing, it was strategic. "It became strategic," he said, "because I recognized the risk you were in." "And now?" she asked. "And now we decide whether we end this cleanly," Adrian continued, "or we formalize it before others decide for us." Her stomach tightened. "Formalize how?" "A temporary public relationship," he said. "Clear boundaries, defined duration, mutual consent." "A contract," she said. "Yes." She shook her head. "You do not need me for that." "I do," Adrian said calmly. "Because you are already visible, because the story has begun, and because forcing it to end abruptly would invite questions neither of us benefits from." Lena walked toward the window, looking down at the city. From this height, everything looked controlled, ordered, small. "I am not from your world," she said. "I know," Adrian replied. "That is why this works." She turned back. "Works for whom?" "For you," he said. "Protection, stability, distance from whoever believes you are accessible." "And for you?" she asked. Adrian met her gaze. "Credibility." She frowned. "You need credibility?" "In certain rooms," he said. "Appearances calm negotiations. A stable presence discourages interference." She laughed softly, without humor. "So I am a symbol." "For now," he agreed. "Only if you choose to be." Silence stretched between them. "And the boundaries?" Lena asked at last. "No public humiliation," Adrian said. "No private intrusion. No decisions made without the other present." "And feelings?" she asked. He paused, just briefly. "Not required." She nodded. "But not forbidden." His expression did not change. Unavoidable things are not subject to rules. Lena looked at her reflection in the glass. She thought of her apartment, her bills, the man who thought he could corner her without consequence. "How long?" she asked. 3 months, Adrian said, with an option to exit sooner. "And after?" "After," he said, "we returned to being strangers who shared one strange chapter." She turned to face him fully. 3 months, she repeated. "On paper." Adrian extended a hand, not demanding, not expectant. "On paper," he said. Lena took it. And in that moment, without signatures or witnesses, the most dangerous part of their agreement was already in motion. The contract was signed quietly. No ceremony, no witnesses, just ink on paper at a glass table overlooking the city, sunlight stretching across words that felt heavier than they looked. Lena read every line twice. Adrian did not rush her. When she finished, he slid the folder aside, as if the document mattered less than the decision behind it. From that moment on, the world began to adjust. The first week moved fast. Lena learned that visibility was a skill, that walking beside Adrian meant matching his pace without losing herself. There were fittings where stylists spoke in numbers and fabrics instead of opinions. Meetings where assistants paused mid-sentence the moment Adrian entered. Cars that arrived before she realized she needed them. Through it all, Adrian remained consistent. He never corrected her in public, never surprised her with decisions. If she hesitated, he slowed. If she spoke, he listened. They practiced nothing, which made it believable. Their first official appearance came sooner than she expected. A charity dinner at a restored museum downtown. Press outside. Cameras flashing. Lena felt the familiar knot tighten in her stomach as Adrian offered his arm. "You can stop this now," he said quietly. "No explanation required." She shook her head. "I am fine." He studied her once, then nodded. Inside, the room shifted the moment they entered together. Heads turned, conversations softened. Someone whispered her name, already knowing it. Lena realized then that association was power, and she was standing in the center of it. Introductions followed, board members, donors, people who smiled as if measuring her worth in seconds. One woman, draped in pearls and certainty, tilted her head. "And what do you do, Lena?" The question was polite. The intention was not. Lena met her gaze. "I work," she said evenly. "I choose carefully, and I do not stay where I am not respected." The woman blinked, then laughed softly. "Of course." Adrian said nothing, but when they moved on, his hand rested briefly at the small of Lena's back, grounding and unmistakable. Later, as they stood near a display of donated art, a man approached Adrian with a familiar confidence. Too familiar. "You move quickly," the man said, eyes flicking to Lena. "I did not realize this was serious." "It is," Adrian replied. The man smiled thinly. "Everything with you is strategic." Lena felt it then. The test. The moment meant to expose her as temporary. She stepped forward before Adrian could respond. "Serious does not mean permanent," she said calmly. "It means intentional. Something many people confuse when they assume access equals importance." Silence followed. The man recovered with a chuckle and excused himself. Adrian turned to her, something unreadable in his eyes. "You did not have to do that." "I know," Lena said, "but I wanted to." The drive home was quiet, not uncomfortable, just full. When they arrived at the penthouse, Lena paused near the window, city lights scattered below like constellations she did not yet recognize. "This is not my life," she said. "It is part of it," Adrian replied. "For now." She nodded. "People will expect more." "They always do," he said. "We give them clarity, not access." She looked at him. "And if clarity is not enough?" "Then we remind them," Adrian said, "that this arrangement exists by choice." Lena turned back to the city, aware of how quickly pretending had become practice, and how easily practice was starting to feel like truth. The third week changed the rhythm between them, not suddenly, not dramatically, but in small, quiet ways that were harder to dismiss. Lena learned Adrian's routines without trying, how he read reports early in the morning with coffee untouched beside him, how he listened more than he spoke in meetings, then ended them with a single sentence that left no room for debate, how the city seemed to wait for him to move first. Adrian learned hers too, that she woke early even when she did not need to, that she stood by the window at night, counting lights as if they grounded her, that she never asked for anything directly, even when she needed it. They kept their distance, too carefully. One evening, rain pressed against the glass in long, patient lines. Adrian returned later than usual, jacket damp, expression tight in a way Lena had not seen before. "You are quiet," she said, not looking at him. "So are you," he replied. She turned. "You had a difficult day." "Yes." She waited. He did not continue. "You do not have to explain," Lena said. "But you do not have to disappear either." He studied her, something weary flickering beneath his composure. "People expect certainty from me, even when there is none." She nodded slowly. "I know what that feels like." Silence settled between them. Different from before, heavier, closer. Later that night, a call came in. Lena recognized the name on Adrian's screen before he muted it. A board member. Persistent, impatient. "They want you," she said. They want control, Adrian corrected. She hesitated. And if they push, they always do. She watched him for a moment, then spoke carefully. You do not have to face them alone. Not tonight. He looked at her. Really looked. This is not part of the contract, he said. I know, she replied. Neither was protecting me. He did not answer immediately. Then he nodded once. They sat together on the sofa, documents spread between them, rain tapping out a steady rhythm. Adrian explained the situation without simplification. She listened without interruption. When she spoke, it was thoughtful, direct, unafraid. You are trying to satisfy everyone, she said. That is why they keep testing you. You should let them see where the line is. He exhaled. They will not like it. They do not have to, Lena said. They just need to respect it. Something shifted then, not attraction, alignment. Adrian smiled faintly. You would be formidable in those rooms. I do not belong there, she said. You already do, he replied. You just do not see it yet. The words stayed with her longer than they should have. Later, as she prepared to leave the room, the power flickered. Just once. Then darkness. Rain thundered outside. Adrian stood. The backup will restore in a moment. Lena laughed softly. Of course it will. But the moment stretched. City lights dimmed beyond the glass. The room filled with shadow and the sound of rain. In the darkness, distance felt different. I did not expect this, Lena said quietly. Neither did I, Adrian replied. For it to feel, she paused, searching for the word. Real. He turned toward her. It is not. I know, she said, but sometimes pretending changes the shape of things. The lights returned, bright and unforgiving. They stepped apart at once. Adrian cleared his throat. We should be careful. Yes, Lena agreed. We should. But as she walked away, she realized something had already crossed the line they had drawn so precisely. Not touch, not words, but trust. And once trust entered the arrangement, there was no clause that could contain what followed. The warning signs appeared quietly, too quietly. Lena noticed it first in the way conversations stopped when she entered certain rooms, in the way smiles lingered a second too long, in the sudden politeness of people who had once dismissed her entirely. Attention had shifted, not toward her value, but toward her vulnerability. The fourth week brought a board luncheon, smaller than a gala, more dangerous. No cameras, no applause. Just polished wood, low voices, and people who believed influence was best exercised without witnesses. Adrian invited her to attend without pressure. You do not have to come, he said. This room does not forgive mistakes. Lena met his gaze. Then it is better they see me clearly. He nodded, accepting her decision without argument. The luncheon began smoothly, discussions of infrastructure, international expansion, numbers that felt abstract even when they decided real lives. Lena listened, careful not to interrupt, until one of the men across the table leaned back and smiled. You have been very visible lately, he said to her. Forgive my curiosity, but what exactly is your role here? The question was framed as interest. The intent was exposure. Lena felt the weight of the room shift toward her. I am here with Adrian, she replied calmly. As agreed. The man chuckled. Agreed by whom? Before Adrian could speak, another voice joined in. People are wondering, a woman added smoothly, whether this relationship is personal or performative. The word landed like a blade. Adrian's jaw tightened. This is not an appropriate discussion. It is when it affects perception, the first man countered. Markets respond to stability, to clarity. Lena understood then. This was not about her. It was about control. She set her hands flat on the table. If clarity is what you want, she said evenly, then allow me to provide it. Every eye turned to her. I am not a distraction, Lena continued. I am not leverage, and I am not temporary entertainment. I am here because Adrian chose me to be here. If that makes you uncomfortable, it says more about your expectations than my presence. Silence followed, not polite, not approving, calculating. The woman tilted her head. That is a confident statement for someone without a title. Lena met her gaze. Titles explain authority. They do not create it. Adrian stood, slowly, deliberately. This meeting is over, he said. Anyone with further concerns may address them to me directly. The room shifted again. Chairs scraped. People stood. Conversations resumed in low tones, none daring to challenge him openly. They left together without another word. Inside the car, Lena's hands trembled. She clenched them in her lap, frustration mixing with adrenaline. "I crossed the line," she said quietly. "You defended yourself," Adrian replied. "And you," she added. He looked out the window. "I allowed them to believe they could question you. That is on me." The words surprised her. Later that evening, the story broke. Not in full, just enough. An article questioning Adrian's judgment, speculation about influence, anonymously sourced doubts framed as concern. Lena read it once, then again. "This is my fault," she said. Adrian shook his head. "It is not, but it will not stop." "What do we do?" she asked. He was silent for a long moment. "We decide whether this arrangement is strong enough to withstand pressure," he said, "or whether you walk away before they force you out." Her chest tightened. "Is that what you want?" "No," Adrian said immediately. Then he paused. "But wanting is not the same as protecting." Lena stepped closer. "I did not agree to this because it was safe. I agreed because it was honest." He looked at her then, something raw beneath the control. "If they attack you," he said, "I will not be able to stay neutral." "Do not," she replied. "Stand with me, or let me stand alone. But do not pretend this is only strategy anymore." The air between them felt charged, fragile. Adrian nodded once. "Then we stopped pretending." Outside, the city continued its endless movement. Inside, the arrangement had reached its breaking point, and neither of them could step back without losing something that no contract had prepared them to risk. The fallout came faster than Lena expected. By morning, the article had multiplied, not copied, but echoed. Different outlets, different tones. The same implication threaded through all of them. Adrian's judgment was compromised, his priorities questioned, his authority framed as distracted, and at the center of it all was her name. Not accused, not praised, just placed. Lena read the headlines in silence, each one tightening something in her chest. Adrian stood across the room, phone pressed to his ear, voice low and controlled as he spoke to people who did not ask how he felt, only what he would do. When the call ended, he did not look at her immediately. "They want a statement," he said. "A clean one." She nodded. "I assume I am not in it." He met her eyes then. "They want distance." The words settled between them like a verdict. "Distance," Lena repeated. "Meaning?" "Meaning reassurance," Adrian replied. "A narrative that restores confidence." She crossed her arms, grounding herself. "And what narrative does that require?" He hesitated. "Just enough. One that reframes this relationship as brief," he said. "Private. Concluded." Lena felt the room tilt. "Concluded. It does not have to be permanent," Adrian added quickly. "Just visible." She took a step back. "So I disappear?" "No," he said. "You step aside." "So they can breathe again," she said quietly. Adrian's jaw tightened. "So the empire does not fracture over speculation." There it was. The line she had known existed but had hoped they would never reach. "You told me this would be a choice," Lena said, "that I could walk away if I wanted." "Yes. And now you are asking me to do it for you." He did not deny it. Silence filled the space, thick and heavy. "I defended you," Lena said, "in rooms that never wanted me there. I stood beside you when they tested me, when they tested us. And now that pressure is real. I am the variable you remove." "That is not fair," Adrian said. "No," she agreed. "It is strategic." The word tasted bitter. "You think I do not see the cost?" Adrian asked, voice low. "You think this is easy for me?" "I think," Lena replied steadily, "that you know exactly what this costs, and you are willing to pay it." His expression shifted, control slipping just slightly. "I built this empire by making impossible decisions," he said, "by choosing stability over attachment." "And now?" she asked. "And now," he said, "that instinct is colliding with something I did not anticipate." She searched his face, hoping for something definitive, an answer that did not calculate. "What happens if I stay?" she asked. "They will escalate," Adrian said. "They will dig. They will turn curiosity into pressure, and they will not stop until one of us breaks." "And if I leave?" "They will move on," he said quietly. They always do. Lena nodded, absorbing the truth she had known all along. This was always temporary, she said. You just forgot to tell your eyes. The words landed harder than she intended. Adrian flinched, barely. She picked up her coat, movements slow and deliberate. I will make it easy, she said. I will say it was mutual, that it ended before it became complicated. He stepped forward. Lena, she stopped, but did not turn. Do not follow me, she said. If you do, you will hesitate. And if you hesitate, you will lose more than control. The door closed softly behind her. Adrian stood alone in the penthouse, city stretching endlessly beyond the glass, quieter than it had ever been. The empire was intact, but something essential had stepped out of it, and no amount of power could call it back. The silence after Lena left was not dramatic. It was procedural. Adrian spent the next 48 hours doing what he had always done best. Meetings, calls, reassurances delivered in measured tones. He approved statements that said enough without saying anything real. The market steadied. The board relaxed. The empire resumed its rhythm, and every part of it felt hollow. At night, the penthouse echoed in unfamiliar ways. Not loud, just empty. The space Lena had occupied was invisible, but undeniable. A glass left on the counter, a book she had not finished, the absence of her voice asking questions no one else dared to ask. On the third morning, Adrian stood alone in the conference room overlooking the city. The board gathered around the table, confident again. Papers aligned, concerns softened. One of them smiled. The situation resolved itself efficiently. Adrian did not return the smile. It did not resolve itself, he said. It was removed. The room stilled. Another member leaned forward. The relationship has ended. That was the concern. No, Adrian replied calmly. That was the convenience. Several exchanged glances. You asked for clarity, Adrian continued. Here it is. I did not lose judgment because of Lena. I discovered it. The chairwoman frowned. This is not the time for philosophy. It is precisely the time, Adrian said, because the narrative you prefer assumes that power survives by retreating. It does not. It survives by choosing what matters and standing with it. Silence followed. Not respectful, alarmed. You are proposing what, exactly? Someone asked. I am correcting the record, Adrian said, publicly. A murmur rippled through the room. You will escalate this, the chairwoman warned. Yes, Adrian replied. I will. Within hours, the statement was released. Not vague, not deflective. Adrian Cole confirmed his relationship with Lena. He took full responsibility for it. He made it clear that no external pressure influenced his personal decisions. He stated plainly that leadership without integrity was not leadership at all. The reaction was immediate. Shock, debate, applause from unexpected places, discomfort from familiar ones. Adrian did not watch it unfold. He was already on his way to find her. Lena had returned to her old apartment, smaller than Adrian remembered, quieter than she felt. She had told herself she was relieved, that simplicity was safety, that stepping back meant reclaiming control. But when the knock came, her heart still stopped. She opened the door slowly. Adrian stood there without an entourage, without a coat, without defenses, just a man who had finally decided. I did not come to ask you to return, he said. I came to tell you that I chose you. After. She searched his face, wary. After what? After understanding what I lose by protecting everything else first, he replied. She shook her head. You cannot undo what you asked me to do. I am not trying to, Adrian said. I am doing the opposite. I walked away so you would not have to choose, Lena said. So do not make this about redemption. He nodded. Then make it about alignment. She crossed her arms. You stood with the empire, and then I stood against it, he said quietly. Because it stood against you. Lena felt the weight of the moment settle. Not romantic, not sudden, honest. What happens now? She asked. Adrian did not step closer. He did not reach for her. Now, he said, you decide whether the cost I finally paid is enough to earn a conversation. She looked at him for a long moment. Then she opened the door wider. And for the first time since the contract was signed, nothing between them was pretend anymore. The weeks that followed were quieter than either of them expected. Not because the world stopped watching, but because it adjusted, slowly, reluctantly. then completely. Adrian did not retreat from his responsibilities. He redefined them. Meetings continued, decisions were made, but something fundamental had shifted. He no longer allowed silence to be mistaken for agreement, nor distance for strength. Lena did not move back into the penthouse, not at first. They met instead in ordinary places, coffee shops, park benches, a small bookstore where no one recognized them and no one cared. They spoke without contracts, without rules written in ink, only boundaries shaped by honesty. "You do not need my world to choose me," Lena said one afternoon, sunlight filtering through the trees, "and I do not need yours to matter." Adrian nodded. "Then we meet where both are true." The media lost interest when there was no scandal left to feed. The board recalibrated when it became clear that Adrian's leadership had not weakened. If anything, it had sharpened. Decisions came faster, loyalty deepened, resistance faded. Power, it turned out, responded to clarity. Months later, Adrian invited Lena to a small gathering. Not a gala, not a spectacle, just people who mattered. People who knew the cost of standing beside someone and choosing them anyway. As the evening settled, Adrian stood, glass in hand. "There was a time," he said calmly, "when I believed control was the same as security. I was wrong." The room listened. "Security is knowing what you will not trade away," he continued, "even when the price is high." He turned to Lena. "I once agreed to a contract that said love was not required," Adrian said. "Tonight, I would like to void that clause permanently." Lena smiled, steady and unshaken. "On one condition," she said. He waited. "That we never confuse power with worth again," Lena said. "Not mine, not yours." Adrian stepped closer. "Agreed." There was no kneeling, no spotlight, just a ring placed gently in her hand, simple and deliberate. She did not answer right away. She looked around the room, at the people who had watched this story unfold without owning it, at the man who had once ruled an empire without knowing where he belonged. "Yes," she said, not loudly, not for effect, just yes. Later that night, as the city stretched below them, Lena rested her head against Adrian's shoulder. "You know," she said softly, "this all started with a kiss that was not real." Adrian smiled, and ended with a choice that was. They stood together, not above the world, not apart from it, but firmly within it, because love, they had learned, was never about status or contracts or escape. It was about the moment someone chose to stay, even when leaving would have been easier.